Great work with you guys, I think, right? And you guys have been awesome in giving us that curriculum, right? And showing us, okay, well, here's the curriculum they're going to be learning. Does it match, right? And it does. The folks that are coming through the Futurense pipeline are, coming in having taken course, and we've done great work with you guys, I think.
Hi guys, today I'm at University at Buffalo, State University of New York, and I'm with someone who is the program director of one of their most famous programs, MS in Business Analytics. We have Dominic here with us. Hi Dominic, hi, how's it going?
Hi Raghav, I'm doing well, how are you?
I just got to know we are like 15 minutes away from Niagara Falls.
Yeah.
Is that really the case?
That is the case, yeah. It doesn't seem as magical for those of us who grew up and live here, but yeah, it's only about 15 minutes away.
So a lot of people, when they think of University at Buffalo, they are confused that where is it located? Because on one side we had Canada, on one side we had New York, on one side we had New Jersey. Like where is it? Where are we right now?
Yeah, there's a misconception that I hit early on in my career, because I'm a UB grad, originally undergrad and grad school, and when I left and I started working in industry and consulting, a lot of people thought, oh, you're from New York City. You must be from New York City, because New York is New York City, right? And no, we're in what's referred to as Western New York or upstate New York. It's kind of this really, really unique place that is, like you said, 15 minutes away from Niagara Falls, but that also means we're 15 minutes away from Canada. Right. We're still very close to New York City. It's only about a five-hour drive, right? Which just feels like a long time, but it's not that far. Right. And we're kind of nestled here, but we're not even really where we are sitting right now is North Campus, and we're not even in the city of Buffalo right now. We're in Amherst, New York, which is just a suburb of the city. And we have a second campus in downtown and a third campus that's our medical campus. And so we've kind of, UB has kind of taken over the region here. And so that's kind of a bit about where we are.
So now tell us, like, when we think about any international student, we realize that University at Buffalo is one of like the most primed universities that a lot of Indians want to come from. What are some top reasons why you think that a lot of international students choose this university?
That's an interesting question. There's a lot kind of packed into that. There's the value equation of this, and I'm certainly not the marketing guy, right, of like the university. But some of the things the students talk about is the value, right? But I actually think it's deeper than that, because there are a lot of state schools. There's a lot of schools all over the place that have the types of programs that we have, and so there's definitely something unique about us. And I really think what's unique, or the most unique, is this sort of community that we have. There hasn't been a single city, even when I was traveling for business, when I was working in consulting and going all over the world, I am hard-pressed to find a place that doesn't have a UB grad, right? And so there's this sort of staying power and this sort of identity that you get when you study here and you graduate from here that really carries throughout your career wherever you wind up. There's a UB person. And it's so funny, because there have been places that I've worked where I will have worked with a person for 4 years, and then we come to find out we both went to UB, but neither of us knew it beforehand, right? And that's the kind of thing that really causes us to kind of stay here. And so many of our alums come back, and they're willing to participate in this, in helping the next generation and getting folks involved and engaged and propping them up and standing on the shoulders of giants for their careers. That, it's just it's a really great place. Right.
So last year I was talking to Dean Iyer. We'll link that to a podcast in the comments. Yeah. And while talking to him, I realized that, as you said, the sense of community is what truly defines this rich legacy that we have. And one thing he mentioned was that because this is a small town and everyone is so close-knit, a lot of career opportunities are sort of out there, which are sort of tailored only for the university grads. Is that the case?
It winds up being, I mean, I'll say it's sort of informal, but those informal connections, that networking that we do, because again, the university is everywhere. It is the largest employer too in Western New York. So even we say, oh, there are a bunch of companies that will hire and they look for UB grads because they know that our grads are of high quality, right? That they know their stuff, that they know us, they even know the faculty. Like I personally will work with presidents and CEOs, vice presidents in different areas of larger businesses, not just here, but around the region and beyond. And so they come to know, okay, well, not just who are these students,
Yeah.
but who's teaching them? And do I trust that person that's teaching them
Right.
to have taught them the right skills? And so there's that. But then there's also this huge machine here that's always hiring. And so a number of our students actually go on to work here, right? Because we have this footprint of 35,000 students plus across all of the ecosystem,
So true.
and all of the resources from the faculty and staff that support everything that we do. There's just so much of a need internally and beyond that yeah, there's just a huge amount of opportunities. And Buffalo brings in businesses. Especially in the past 10 years, there's been a huge investment to bring companies here locally.
Can you name a few companies?
Yeah. Odoo is a big one. So Odoo is an ERP solutions.
They're very big in India. They're very big in India. I met the founder of Odoo.
Really?
Surprisingly, in India.
Ah, wonderful. Yeah, they're a great company, and they just set up a major office here in Western New York, and we've had a number of students that kind of work through there. There's another major organization that's more of a long-standing pillar of this community, Rich Products. Rich Products is, well, they do a ton of different things, but they're a long-standing member of this community, and they have international distribution operations and things like that as well. We've also had Yahoo and IBM, and there's satellite offices for pretty much most of the companies you can imagine here. But that's not even the main story, I think, of the employers, especially in the tech sector, which is where all of our students kind of wind up, at least in some way, shape, or form, either a tech sector job within a non-tech organization or a fully tech organization. The startup community is just incredible, right? The small and mid-sized, just getting started, building, getting Series A funding, things like that, right? That are starting to kind of blossom here and around, right, in the general region, driven by things like AI and all of that, right? Is really creating this really, really, really exciting community. One thing you should check out if you or anybody kind of in your orbit hasn't, one of the big things we have here is this thing called the 43 North competition, and it's a huge startup competition that happens every year. In fact, a number of our students just went to one of the events that they had, and a number of startups get prizes and funding and things like that as sort of this like community-run incubator almost for these new ideas and these new businesses to flourish here in Buffalo, and a lot of really great companies have come out of it.
So tell us one thing, right? Right now, everyone is talking about AI. Everyone is talking about how the world will change.
Yeah.
Everyone is talking about how jobs will not remain; they will evolve. People who know AI will replace you. AI can't replace you. Like all of those things we have been hearing 100 times.
Yeah.
But still we are realizing something as simple as business analytics, which was there 10 years ago also, is still in demand. Still companies are lining up to hire folks who know business analytics.
Yeah.
So before we get into our program, the MS in business analytics, can you tell us what is business analytics? Who is this program for? And how are jobs evolving with AI?
Yeah. That is a great series of questions, and is one that comes up a lot, right, from all of our student populations. So business analytics is this really unique thing. I like to term it as sort of the intersection between an MBA and a data science degree, right? And so it leverages a lot of the best things from both of those without leaning too heavily. An MBA is traditionally for individuals who know that they want that career in the more kind of general business administration, business management, upper echelon sort of thing. And the data science degree is for folks who know, hey, I'm the maths person. I want to dive super deep into that. I want to get into the statistics at that deep level. Okay, so business analytics says, okay, well, what if we were the business person and the data person? Because, well, we use data to drive decision making in companies. And so, business analytics really, in my mind, and there are different schools of thought, but it really emerges as this intersection that says, okay, well, we get enough of the maths and enough of the statistics to know how to analyze data, process data, drive decision making, and we know enough about the business to know what that decision making is going to do, how we implement it, how we strategize, and how we make organizations better, right? As a result of it. And so business analytics is really that sort of one of my students once called it, they're like, oh, it's like the Goldilocks, right? degree program in between both of those for folks who have that interest. And with AI, right? Specifically with AI, there's an interesting thing happening that happens, I think, with every tech bubble. I mean, from the dot-com boom in the 90s to the advent of the smartphone to cloud computing to everything, everything since. That is, as a society, when a new piece of technology or a new implementation of a technology like AI hits, there's so much rush to market and investment in overestimating certain elements of the capabilities and underestimating of the long-term capabilities. And what that really means is that, as we look at AI, to your point, no, a lot of companies are jumping to replace, but what we're seeing is, well, that's not working, and a lot of them are paring back those decisions to replace,
True.
right? And what we're realizing is that it's about speed and scale, not replacement. We're increasing the speed and the scale and the quality at which we can do things with the people that are capable of doing them.
Right.
And so our students who are in business analytics are really going in and saying, okay, well, if I could do 10 before, 10x of something, now I can do 50x of something at that same level of quality or even greater. And that's the real promise of AI. It's not something that we see as a replacer, it's an augment, right? Like your smartphone is an augment, right? Like email was an augment, right? Like websites are an augment for brick and mortar, right? At the same token, those are how those sorts of advancements are really gonna have staying power.
So tell me one thing, right? If I do my MS in business analytics, what are some outcomes, kind of jobs that I could look at once I graduate?
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways that people will take this degree and turn it into their future. And it's really driven by the fact that, there's an old, it's a little bit cliche, but it's that data is everything. Everything is data, right? But it's true. We've got folks that come in from backgrounds all over the place, right? So we've got our traditional students who have an undergraduate in business administration or an undergraduate in computer science and engineering, but we also have people who are doctors, right? Who are medical practitioners that are coming back to school because they recognize that data is what's going to drive good patient outcomes. We've had folks who have passion and undergraduate and experience, right, in film studies, coming in and saying, okay, well, how can I use data to optimize filming schedules for things? And like, we have people coming in from all of these different places, and when they leave, they go in all of those different places, right? So we've got the traditional folks will go into, supply chain analytics consulting, or they'll go into data scientist roles at organizations, or they'll go into product manager, right? So that's a big common one that a lot of folks go into because, well, product management is about using the data you have about your consumers and your business to make decisions. And so, across industries, across job titles, we have folks pretty much running the gambit, doing everything. They're working with social impact organizations and not-for-profits to help advance their agendas. They're working as marketing officers for organizations, using data about their campaigns to further their marketing operations and further the reach of their brands and products. I mean, the sky is really the limit. It just depends on what the individual wants to do, and then them being able to work with us to make that connection between, okay, well, how does data work in that particular field, and how can we get you to understand that?
No, I think makes a lot of sense. And one thing, because as you know, a lot of Futurense US Pathway candidates are doing their MS in business analytics with you guys. And one thing that a lot of them talk about is your teaching. They just love the way you talk. So is it the case that are all professors so fun, or are you the only one?
That's flattering. It's flattering, to say the least. I think it's mostly the caffeine, more so than it is anything else. No, we do have fun, right? At the end of the day, a lot of us here at UB are, individuals who have had industry exposure, industry experience, even our tenured faculty, who you'd think of as our, academics, our researchers traditionally, they work with organizations. They work with these companies that we're trying to help. And so we've learned one very important thing, I think, as a school and as instructors, which is, if you're not enjoying it, you're not going to do it well, ever, right? And so, we do try to inject things that are fun and interesting, right, into our coursework, into our lectures, into every engagement we have, because nothing is more difficult and painful than a thing you're bored at, right? And so that's kind of the guiding philosophy, I think.
No, I completely resonate with that. And what I believe is that the case studies, right? When I was looking at your curriculum, when I was looking at the way you guys teach, it's a lot to do with projects. It's a lot to do with case studies. It's a lot to do with real world examples.
Yeah.
So can you give us an example of a simulation or a real world problem that you make students solve?
Yeah. One of the really cool things, I think, is this idea that in the analytics program, the business analytics program in general, I think one of the interesting things that we can focus on there with regard to kind of like these experiential opportunities is built into the business analytics program. And that's going to be our practicum. So this is where a lot of the students really get to focus on something that matters to them. And so one of the pathways that we take is I work throughout the year as the program director to build relationships with external organizations who then provide sponsored projects. Wow. And those sponsored projects are projects that are problems they're trying to solve, wow, but either can't because they don't have the resources or time or something like that, or it's just not in the cards strategically for them to solve this year, and so they'll bring it to our students. And so we've had students working on some really cool things. Last year, we've had a group of students working on multiple projects for a TV broadcasting company that I have to be careful about how I go into detail with it, right? But they were working on this demographic analysis of, okay, who's watching our television shows, and why are they switching off of our television shows? Nice. Why are they switching to our television shows? How are they engaging with our advertisements? Things like that. And it really turned into this thing that was this series of analysis and recommendations on how they could make better content or how they could better organize the schedules, right? We've had folks that go in and do this analysis for a local, and this is actually public. I can share with you the link to the article that our comms team just put together, which is with a local social impact organization called Buffalo Prep, that helps boost up the community educational resources for folks in this kind of K through 12 range. And what they were trying to identify is, okay, well, we have all these programs, educational opportunities, and we have the data, but how do we know where they went? How do we know the actual impact of our programs? And so our students worked to put together a whole analysis and report for them about, okay, well, yeah, your programs are impactful, and here's how. Here's where people are going. Here's where they're winding up. And so we kind of run the gambit of these things that are all over the place in terms of, you know, whatever a project is, or whatever a company is willing to sponsor. They can get that experience, and they can get that real-world data, and they can work on all of the nuance of that. The data's poor quality. We need to clean it. We need to fix it, and they have a safety net because they have me. They have their faculty that they can work with and say, hey, I don't know how to solve this problem. I hit this wall. And while they're here with us, we can go and say, okay, here's how you overcome that wall. And it becomes this sort of collaborative educational experience driven by these real-world examples that creates this really, really just unique and awesome thing.
No, I think what we have heard, and because we have a lot of students here, is that whatever you guys teach, they have the ability to ask questions. And that is something you guys encourage a lot. Because everyone was mentioning that you ask them that, do you have any doubts? You guys make sure that nothing is left in imagination.
Oh, yeah.
Everything has a logical reason to it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So like in the Futurense case, right? 30% of their coursework happens in India with an IIT or IIM, and the 70% happens on campus in the US with you guys. So when people come beforehand, if they've already started 30% of their coursework, you think it helps them? What have you seen with the students till now?
They're solid. I mean, they're in excellent position. The way that our program works traditionally, right, is it's a 3-semester program. There's a summer, fall, and spring. You know, the folks that are coming through the Futurense pipeline are, you know, coming in having taken course, and we've done great work with you guys, I think, right, and you guys have been awesome in giving us that curriculum, right, and showing us, okay, well, here's the curriculum they're going to be learning. Does it match, right? And it does. Right, and we find that it does, and then, you know, the big test is when the students arrive, you know, does what we said the curriculum was going to be actually match? Yes, and they are well prepared for the coursework. I have a lot of students in my data warehousing, cloud data warehousing and data engineering is the full title of it, who come in, and if they didn't have a solid background in database management systems, relational databases, things like that, that would be a very difficult course for anybody to take, and they are excelling in it. I love to see it.
Perfect. Wonderful. So I think one last question. If you could give one piece of advice to someone who is applying for the MS in Business Analytics through the Futurense US Pathway for University at Buffalo, what would that one piece of advice be? And At the same time, if you were to give us a cheat code, a hack, what are certain things that impress the admissions committee here?
I think that those two questions probably have the same answer. And that is, find something you're passionate about. Right? Like there's this idea, I think, from a lot of students that are thinking about embarking on the master's degree journey, that what they need to do is they need to go and find, some, I'm not going to call it a boring use case, but to them, something that might not be super exciting. And so, I had a student last year come up to me and say, hey, I'm going to start my journey with you. I got my admit. I'm really looking forward to it, and I feel like I should study finance. And I said, you feel? Why do you feel that way? And the student said to me, well, my family said, and I'm looking at LinkedIn jobs, and I'm looking at Indeed, and I'm looking at salaries. And I said, are you interested in that? Well, I don't know. I was like, okay, well, first we need to do is we need to find out what you're excited about.
Right.
What makes you passionate, right? And they said, well, it might be silly. No, it's never silly. Right? It's never silly. We've had students come in here and do analyses for their capstone project on, UFO sightings, right? That's not silly. That was what they were interested in. That was what they were excited about. And you know what? They went to an agency that does research, and they do these sorts of things. And so whatever it is that you're passionate about, that's what we need to identify up front. And if you don't know, that's also okay, right? Because when you're here, there is enough variety in the coursework. There's enough variety in what you do. And the options that you have that you can just explore and be open to that exploration, right? And so it's those two things. Find something you're interested in, or recognize that you don't know, and then say, but I think I'm really excited about this data thing, and then be open to the journey, right? I always tell students the story about when I was a graduate student. Now this is longer ago than most of them care to hear about, but when I was in that program, I was firmly focused on healthcare IT, a wonderful field, talking about electronic medical records and things like that, and interoperability. I wrote a thesis on it and everything. But I kind of was like, I fell into it, right? And I was working towards it, and I really enjoyed the healthcare sector, but I wasn't really sure. And then one of my faculty told me, are you excited about anything else? Does anything else sound interesting? I said, yeah, that cybersecurity thing sounds interesting. And he goes, take the course. Take it. I said, but it's not really. He goes, take it. Because when are you going to have that opportunity again? When you go to the job, if you get a job as a healthcare IT professional, are they going to send you for, ethical hacking training? Do you think? I said, well, most probably not, He said, so then why would you avoid the opportunity now? So I took it, and you know what? I made it my entire career in industry. I transferred everything. I loved it so much. I had such a passion for it that I spent my entire industry career in cybersecurity. And so it's that being open and demonstrating that's what we look for. We look for that. We don't look for any specific backgrounds. We don't look for any specific projects, anything like that. We look for that excitement. I
think you have got me excited. I think you have pumped me up. And I think people who are watching this would be so excited to one day come and study from someone like you. So I really appreciate this opportunity, Dominic, and looking forward to collaborating more.
Looking forward to collaborating as well. Thanks for taking the time, and go to Niagara Falls.
Sure.